Welcome to the Psychedelic Paradigm Shift, where we explore the frontiers of psychedelic science. Journey with us as we interview leading experts, pioneering researchers, and courageous spiritual warriors whose lives have been transformed by the power of psychedelic medicine.
Hi there, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jeannie Page, and today I'm excited to be joined by Adam Dobbins, also known as Dobby, from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Adam is a retired Navy SEAL and global security leader with over 2 decades of operational and instructional experience, ranging from anti-piracy missions to advanced combat training, all kinds of crazy things that I can't even fathom. Welcome, Adam. How are you today?
Good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely a pleasure. First of all, I want to thank you for your service. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's not a path that I have walked, so it's hard to even fathom. I'm really happy to see that the psychedelic medicine movement is moving into the veteran world, and we're going to talk all about it. So the first thing I want to know is, how did you become a Navy SEAL? Tell me about the journey that led to that.
I'd had to get into the military to get out of, I grew up in Louisiana, and I had to get out of there. And literally the first door I went to was Air Force, and that didn't work out. Next door was Army. I said no. Next door was Marine Corps. Nope. And then next door was Navy, and I saw Navy SEAL thing, and I was like, I want to do that. So that's kind of how that got started. And, you know, I didn't really know much of it back then. It's not like it was now with all these SEAL books, and obviously we didn't have cell phones, and, you know, we were a different era back then. I mean, even though I'm only in my mid 40s, that was a totally different time back then, and things have changed. So there wasn't much to learn except just the men, the green men, the old frog men, you know. So that's where some of the frog stuff comes from, is some of the frogmen back in the day before they were SEALs. They were UDT frogmen.
Were you always someone that was drawn to danger? I mean, we see movies about SEALs and all the crazy kind of adventures. You guys are parachuting and diving underwater and doing all kinds of kind of living on the edge, right?
I guess so. I mean, it's funny you asked that, because lately been working on some timelines that kind of make sense to help me having made sense of it. You know, I mean, let's face it, we're on a psychedelic podcast, so that's talking about therapy and mental health. So, you know, I've been working on a lot of trailheads, doing a lot of therapy, which is new to me. And then in working those trailheads, you start seeing timelines, which I'm seeing this timeline going back where it was all these just really pushing it all the time, going hard, wrecking my bike, getting in fights, a lot of that stuff. So, I mean, I did hunt and I did play in the woods a lot. So there was a lot of stuff that was very similar to what I would be doing in the special forces as an adult.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I was always the risk-averse person, so that would be not the path I would take. So you were a Navy SEAL for 4 years, is that correct?
Yeah, so I had a terrible military experience as far as overall. I gained rank really fast. I did really well in the schools. I did well in the training. I did well in leadership positions, so I made rank really fast, but got the 4th anthrax shot, lost all my hair, so no eyebrows, no nothing. I started with what's called alopecia areata, and men get it in their beards. And some of the special forces operators were noticing that they had areata in their beards when we were going to Afghanistan, because they had to, you know, match the locals, and they'd have these patches where it was baby skin. Well, I had that in my head, and then it went to totialis, which is your head, and then universalis, your whole body, within 2 weeks after that 4th shot of anthrax. I got really sick. And then I think within the next year is when I had my parachute accident and just completely wrecked my back and was in the hospital for a while, had to have fusion, and then just basically kind of figured my way out of the Navy at that point. Went to school in Norfolk, Costa Rica, at the University of Costa Rica, and a little university here in Virginia Beach, and did a whole bunch of school, used my GI Bill, which was complete crap back then, but it was better than nothing. And then moved into voc rehab. The veterans education program is a lot better than it was when I got out, which is great. The veterans should really tap into that and use it, even if you're not thinking you're going to use it, because I was taking business administration classes, in all of this political science and Spanish. And here I am years later. I start a business. I have to use Spanish because I can't find anybody to work. So I have to hire some guys to do some work. So Spanish comes in handy. I'm doing taxes. So there's my business admin and, leadership positions and just writing emails and having the forethought to think things through and set back a little bit and have that 30,000 square foot when you're in the mud.
Yeah. So when you were actually a SEAL, where were you deployed?
I didn't deploy for a full deployment because I broke my back. So I did all that work up and didn't do anything. But then after I graduated from college and worked a few jobs, I got a job as a contractor, teaching first. And then I started in 2012. I started working for a company where we worked for the shipping and a lot of stuff off of Somalia. And then we started working the west coast of Africa, which is way more hairier than the East Coast. The stuff that we were seeing on the East Coast of Africa was like the gentleman's game, and did a lot of other contracts with some alphabet companies and doing stuff that I don't even think I can talk about. But I think I ended up doing about 100 deployments with those companies and contracts. So like got to see.
So you're doing the same type of work.
Just not with active duty, a lot of contracting, but there's in the contract world, it's I was making a very funny analogy to where I'm at now because I'm in the cannabis industry with a grow store is this swimming in the sea of uncertainty. Because when you're a contractor, you don't know how long the company you're working for is going to keep the contract. You don't know how long you're going to be on it. There's a lot of what ifs. And then when you come back off a rotation, and so now I'm in the same, business right now. And here this hemp bill got slipped in that could really change the format of the cannabis policy and everything. And I know this is a psychedelic podcast, but a lot of people use cannabis and hape and cacao and other things as sacred medicine to kind of get into that space to do work, and or for other reasons because of the help from the cannabinoids in the plant itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to come back to that a little bit later, but I'm curious. So obviously you broke your back. That was huge physical trauma. But did you get trauma from your combat experience, or would you say the trauma that you've been working through with psychedelics is more pre being in the military?
I think I picked up a lot from training. We lost a lot of guys in training to accidents. And man, I had to go like pick up this dude's wife one time and I knew he was at the hospital dead. And then there was just a lot of guys at this one spell. We just have all these helicopter accidents during training or all these training accidents and really tight knit group, and then we're working up a deployment together as a platoon, and then you're losing all your dudes from this small little group. It's not only just your workforce, it's your brother. So we lost a lot of brothers, and we drank a lot, used way too much alcohol, which it's like the military pushes that. It's like crazy. Is we do all this work to become amazing operators and amazing military people to fit in this box to do this mission, and you work your body and do all these things to be a better shooter and all this, but we spend absolutely zero time for mental health.
Yeah, I know. It's terrible. I just looking at some of the statistics, it's 29% of veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan that suffer from PTSD. It's like a huge number. I mean, it's
if
over
you look
500,000.
at the number of people that died in the war in Iraq and Afghanistan together, it's nowhere near the amount of suicides that have the attrition rate of suicides that have come out of that. And, if you ask someone what number you call for help, they know 911. But if you ask someone what to call for a veterans crisis line, they don't know, but it's 988.
Right.
And,
that's good.
And even if a veteran asks, because most of us are so stoic, and I've been in that situation. So I told you you'd have to keep me on point. It'll just roll. But
That's
when
fine.
when talking to veterans now, since I work with vets as a peer support advocate, they have a really good system for talking to veterans, and we follow the Columbia Protocol. And so that way we all have the same standardized system when we talk to veterans. And the VA asks similar questions when you're in there if they think that you have a problem. But I think the VA mental health system is good for some, but as far as special forces operators, I don't think the VA is equipped to work with the individuals and the things that we've done and seen. And
Yeah.
then people just don't know what's available to them, and now with the 60 Minutes, Heroic Hearts, and, Dan Gold and those guys are working there in Puerto Vallarta and also in Peru. I had a veteran that worked for me that went to the Peru location. And then my wife went to Puerto Vallarta with the women's group of vets, which is the same place that Heroic Hearts does. So it's a very close community in that sense that everyone is getting good healing, but in close community, that means that we can only service so many at a time. They all have to go outside of the US to seek help. It's crazy. And I wanted to say at the beginning of this is you made it here into this podcast. It's like, do the least amount of work or do a little bit more work and put the box down and, get rid of it, because all these people are having to travel outside the US once they just finally get so desperate.
How much communication is happening at the VA? Obviously, we know psychedelic medicine is out there internationally. Are they referring people to it? We'll talk about the organizations that we know are doing it that are nonprofits, but at the VA, are they referring people to these organizations that will bring them overseas?
I can't say from experience. That's a great question. You'll have to remind me on that and try to ask somebody that would be able to answer that a little better for you. I would love to know myself. But my reason of suspect is that they probably play, like I am in this interview a little bit, is a public affairs officer standpoint, just for the fact of their donors and what their mission statement is. Because they're not going to tell people to use cannabis in a cannabis legal state, even though it could help them. They're going to put them on clonazepam or Prozac or Paxil or something like they did me without a blood toxicology report. And that was, oh my gosh, that was the most scary thing. And I can't believe that other veterans are having to go through that. Breaks my heart.
No, it's awful how completely indoctrinated we are into the world of pharmaceuticals. We think this is okay, get people hooked on these opioids that will have them go down the addiction rabbit hole and destroy their lives. That's okay. But it's not okay to do something natural that historically and indigenous cultures have used for centuries in healing. So it's like we have it all completely backwards, which is why I think we are at this precipice right now in mental health of this shift happening. We know now that in Oregon and Colorado, psilocybin therapy is now legal for clinical use. So those are starting, right?
Baby steps.
So many other countries. Yeah, so many other countries are doing it. Obviously, we'll talk about Ibogaine in Mexico. But before I get to that, I just wanted to mention 20 veterans a day that die by suicide right now. That's
where are we getting those statistics? I highly doubt that that's correct. I think that it's higher than that. That are affected around them in the circle, the family and the immediate circle that is around that person. And that, it's just like throwing a stone into a pond, and that trickle effect, it really tears a lot of stuff around it apart too, unfortunately.
So I know you've lost some very personal friends, so talk to me about them.
Yeah, so I've lost a lot of guys in war training and other things, and then I've had guys that have committed suicide. I've been around several guys that have committed suicide since I've been out of the military, which is really hard and to process. But I had a buddy that was really close to me that killed himself in 2023. His name was Mike Day. He had a book named Perfectly Wounded. He was shot 27 times in Iraq. He has this miraculous story. You got to check out the book, and it's on Audible. He reads it, and you get a lot of his personality in the Audible, because you can tell at the beginning he doesn't want to read it, and then later he starts getting in. We're fucking stubborn. Like,
That's why you're good at what you do.
It's like,
Yeah.
you go through all this effort to write a book and then you get the chance to read the Audible and then you're frustrated with it,
Yeah.
obviously frustrated with it. And so it's just so cute, that was his personality. And so, he's a great dude, good friend of mine. It's really tragic loss, and to a lot of people in the community, because Bobby Ramirez and some other SEALs had just committed suicide, and it was just like, what the fuck is going on here? And we got his brain to Dr. Pearl at the Center for Health Institute so he could test it for CTE, and then I actually got to meet Dr. Pearl in person.
Tell me who that is.
He also was on 60 Minutes, where he did showing the brain matter from people that had been in car accidents and then veterans that had been in car accidents. But it's all post-mortem studies right now, and showing that CTE, where, basically guys are getting a CTE and that's what's driving them crazy. And it's from all the blast and the concussion. We're getting all these things. These guys are getting super desperate. Their families, just like Amber Capone is the owner of VETS, which is Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions. And Amber was really desperate. Her husband was going through a downward spiral, and she got him down to Mexico, and now they run VETS, which they sent me as a grantee down to Mexico. To Ambio is the location, and it's in the movie that I told you about, In Waves and War.
You know what? Before I have you talk about that, let me just flip quickly and we'll show the trailer for that, just to give people an idea.
Yeah.
I just watched it. You told me to watch it, and I'm so glad you did. It was so well done.
Yeah, they did an excellent job.
I know. And it's serious filmmakers. The names of the people that produce this film are known for documentaries, and they've won a bunch of awards at festivals. So yeah, let's just watch this real quick.
At first, I was just wondering, when is this going to start? The medicine brings out things it wants you to see, and you don't know why. I had a lot of stuff to work through. Navy SEAL training is one of the most demanding things on the planet.
It was like being drafted and going to the Patriots. It was everything I ever wanted.
The worse the place was, the more we wanted to go.
It felt like Russian roulette. Every time he would leave, he may not come home.
Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong.
We got discovered.
I can't fire back because I can't see anybody.
I thought my arm was gone, and I can't feel anything.
Blood and bullets spewed all over that thing. Just...
You go overseas and you see half your platoon get killed. We're not supposed to leave them.
I was just begging, can you please help him?
The TBI and with the memory loss, I'd meet someone, I don't know what your name is, no idea.
He was doing all the things he was told to do, and he was actually getting worse. I got his medical records. I completely changed my approach. Psychedelic medicines proved to be effective, but both are illegal in the United States. So Marcus would have to travel to Mexico.
If you love your wife, you'll go to Mexico and do psychedelics.
All the body armor you put on, that all goes away.
My brothers, my teammates, you deserve to be happy and live a good life.
This is just one of those points in medicine where I've got to have the courage to jump.
That medicine takes you right to the crest and you fall off.
We get into this line of work because we feel like it's who we are. Who the hell am I now?
So well done. Oh my gosh. I related so much to Amber in that, because my generation, Gen X, yours too, but certainly older than us, have so much stigma against these medicines. So when the husbands were saying, what, you want me to go to Mexico and do psychedelics? Are you insane? I get that. So Amber gets so much credit for, I know it comes from desperation. We've tried everything else. Nothing else is working. So let's try this. And somebody said in there, the courage to jump. It really is. I talk about people that do this work, you're a spiritual warrior to do this work because you're forced to see things that are really scary and things you don't even necessarily remember, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I naively thought that I could watch that with no problem.
yeah, I wondered that.
Yeah, so that's probably the third time I've watched it. Yeah, man, I'm really soft on that. It's deep. There's a lot that goes around that because of the people that were involved, and yeah, so it's hard to really wrap my head around it still that I was so blessed to have gone, and then that they're making such traction right now where the Texas Ibogaine Initiative and Brian Hubbard, and they're working with Governor Rick Perry. And there was, speaking of Mike Day, if you look up his name on the internet again, you'll probably find a bill. I can't remember exactly the bill name. I should know this, but it was an initiative for them to start using psychedelic therapy to help veterans. And it was in Mike's name. And Dan Crenshaw, I think, Morgan Luttrell, and some of the other Zinke. And that's what's cool right now is riding this congressional wave that we have with all these veterans that see the promise in it and not getting in these roadblocks of, I'm just going to say it, all these old whiteheads,
Yep.
I mean, that generation is going to slowly start going away. The voters, the same thing, not just the people that are in office, but the constituents too. And people are changing their minds on things. So then even if the, Congress seat's not behind it, they're going to have to, or they're going to lose constituents and not even be there in the first place.
Yeah. When I came home from doing ayahuasca in Peru, I got involved with the Decriminalized Nature group here in Seattle. And we were partnered with veterans groups and the libertarians because they were all the ones that were on board with this. And I understood that in order to get the mainstream regular people to think this is legit, veterans were going to be the avenue to do that, because you could take a hippie that's just kind of off the deep end, with the stereotype of Timothy Leary. No one's going to respond to that, but you get someone who's serious and who's actually fought for our country and is going through horrible trauma. That's a serious conversation. And that's why I think Texas is so interesting, of all places, that this has been moving through the legislature. So it's definitely coming. And it's one of my missions with this podcast is I want to get as many veterans as I can on here talking about this. So let me just, for our viewers that don't know what Ibogaine is, a lot of people know psilocybin, mushrooms, and more people are learning about ayahuasca, but Ibogaine, very few people know about. It comes from Africa, from Gabon. It's from the Bwiti, I don't even know if I'm saying it right. Bwiti, B-W-I-T.
Yeah, the Bwiti tribe. You want to hear some trippy music? Listen to some Bwiti music. They play.
I'm sure. Yeah. Well, indigenous cultures have used these medicines for centuries.
This is the fruit off of an iboga tree.
How did you get involved with the vets group that took you to do the Ibogaine?
It's a really funny story. So after Mike killed himself in March, I helped the family and helped with the estate and helped some things. And I think January, March, April. So by May, I had stopped drinking because I was just doing the thing that most veterans and most of us do to cope, is just drink. And it was just not leading me down a great path. It was just getting worse. I was already a huge handful for my poor wife, and just her in the same situation that Amber was in. And I had actually applied for another program, but was in the middle of taking care of Mike's stuff and I just thought that I was nowhere near ready to do medicine and do any work. I was too distracted. I wanted to be a little more present. Plus, I kind of wanted to finish what I was doing. And I didn't go. I lost that grant. And then I applied for vets, and I didn't have any deployments after 9/11 active duty. But then I talked to one of the directors and told her how many deployments I had, and she was like, oh shit. And then a lot of the people knew me in the circle, luckily, and they were able to give me a grant. And I went in December of 2023, and man, there was a great experience.
Now tell me, before you tell me about the Ibogaine, had you done psychedelics at any point in your life at this point? Did you know what you were getting to?
I grew up in Louisiana, and these little guys here that grow, they grow everywhere down there. So I had like maybe once or twice as an adolescent done it and had just not a favorable experience, you know. And so I did not do it again until October. I went to One's Retreat in Jamaica. They have a really amazing location down there and site. They got hit hard by the hurricane, man. They are definitely needing some love and attention sent down there. But anywho, One's Retreat in Jamaica, and I went with some other Special Forces operators under a program. And that was the first time I had done anything since that time when I was an adolescent. And man, it was crazy. A lot of really dark stuff, which, you know, some people say is a bad trip, but it was things that I needed to face. If you're looking at like a Carl Jung philosophy or a Dr. Schwartz IFS, it's parts and or shadow work, you know, and it's stuff that I needed to face. And it was like in the things that I saw during the first, you do 2 ceremonies there. In the first ceremony, I saw a lot of stuff that had to do with Mike and a lot of my past. You know, it really brought up kind of like in the trailer that you watched with Marcus, where he was seeing a lot of pictures, a lot of that. And man, it was hard. It was rough to where I wanted to leave after that first day.
Naturally.
I was just like, fuck this. And we were doing yoga and breath work the next day and writing our intentions. And I was just like, I was the only one that had, you know, any other experience with it. And I was just like, fuck this, I'm kind of out. And luckily I stayed. And the second one was a lot more favorable. And that's a program that the SEAL Future Foundation is working with under their Pillars of Health. So there's not a lot of the foundations that are working in the psychedelic, you know, region that are also doing other things, because like Heroic Hearts is just doing those trips, and, you know, Vets is just doing those kind of facilitations and trips. And what's lucky is the SEAL Future Foundation is doing other things with regenerative health and education, job placement, a lot of other stuff too. Our unit's small, so, you know, even though there's all these SEAL like foundations and everything, it's small and they've got a lot of donors. But you look at the military overall, a lot of guys are not getting any help. They don't know what's available to them, and they stray away from the VA. You know, they just don't trust the system. It's really tough. And what do? Is they'll go and end up getting things because they read all this, and, you know, the Mike Tysons and the people that are taking the spirit and what the medicine is really for, a tool to do the work, you know, to get work done. It's just to get stuff out of the way to let you do the work. But they're turning it into things that they're eating on a podcast recreationally and talking about as a recreational, you know, which is really hurting. You know, it's just like the Time magazine article where it was the Life magazine, and where
back in the 60s.
Yeah, and then everybody got really pissed because all these hippies were going down there, and it was all recreational, and it was taken away from the spirit. So we can transfer that to what's going on now with the Ibogaine treatment, and hopefully it doesn't get like that. It doesn't get misused in that, because that's serious, man. That thing will kick your butt. I don't see how anybody could recreation.
Yeah. Oh my God, I know. When I did ayahuasca, I knew that was really serious, but from my understanding, is Ibogaine is even more. So when you were in Jamaica, was that Ibogaine as well?
Psilocybin, because
that was psilocybin. Okay,
it's legal there.
Yes. Okay, so then you did psilocybin in Jamaica, and then in Tijuana area, you did the Ibogaine with Vets. So tell me, what was the Ibogaine like?
So that house ambio is really very clinical. So whereas at Jamaica, you get a little bit of woo-woo because they have people playing music and, there's a little woo to it. Well, the vets is really just clinicals because you get down there, they test your blood and everything to make sure you're not on anything because this is a serious medicine. It can really kill you if you're not following the protocol.
You have to go off everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you get all that done. They ask you a lot of questions, which in that questionnaire was great because I had never been asked questions about some of my trauma related things in that nature. And my roommate, I was in the only room at that house that has a roommate, and he was in there and he was just like, holy shit, dude. And I was like, yeah, I didn't really ever know that I had been knocked out that many times and like all these surgeries, and they were adding up basically all the time that I had been unconscious, and before I was like, that's normal, right? Like we're all like, you've been knocked out, right? And it's kind of like if you ever watched that Archer show, with the tinnitus and being knocked out, I started to kind of have this whole realization that I was almost like that cartoon character Archer, where I was just belligerently like, oh, I'm fine, you're fine, like, oh no, man. Yeah.
Yeah, your baseline of normal was not the same as everyone else.
No. And then at the same time, and being in a house and everybody's working on their own trauma, and then you're trying to find your group setting and, where you are in a group. And I mean, you can attest to it when you went to do ayahuasca because you were with a group and you didn't know a lot of those people and you kind of had to find your way in it. Yeah. And I am not everyone's cup of tea at all. Like, I mean, like it takes some people a while to warm up to me. So it's like in a cup of tea sense, I'm probably ayahuasca. So like that group, I just didn't click with the guys. My roommate and I had this good click, and then he had an overwhelming experience with the Ibogaine, and it really just kicked my ass. And he was trying to confide in me, and I just couldn't be there for him because I was such.
Yeah, you were processing yourself.
Oh,
right?
yeah. And I mean, I told the girls there at night as they come check on you, and I told them in Spanish that I felt like I was in a car crash. I mean, my whole body. So, the book, Your Body Keeps a Score. Well, that's what that Iboga wanted to just really let out all of that trauma. And holy crap, I heard my gray day was terrible. I literally crawled to the bathroom and was just sick all day long. It was pretty bad. This is a rare thing. Not many people have experiences like mine. So some people just have a soft gray day, not many people. And I think that, I needed that. My body had just been through a lot, and that's what it wanted to do,
And I think it's fair to set realistic expectations for people. I mean, this is not easy work to do. And you do really have to build up the courage to it. For me, when I first discovered ayahuasca 10 years prior, I knew I wasn't ready for it, and I'd never touched a psychedelic. It was a decade later before I finally did it. So when you did the Ibogaine, did you have major breakthroughs, like major healing during that?
No. I had to take a booster just to feel it. And then when that kicked in, it totally kicked my ass, like completely. Felt like I had to get up to the bathroom. And then by the time I got back to my mat, it was just like freight train. I was trying to center on my mat and just do some breath work because it just felt like this big mass was pushing me down and just couldn't breathe. And so then I started doing some box breathing, and that was too much. And then just little sips. And then the next thing there's light coming in the window, and, I do like this, and there's no tracers, and my head is not buzzing anymore. Because when you do Ibogaine, for some reason, everyone gets bees in their head. Literally,
that's consciousness expanding,
Yeah. So there was no more bees, no tracers. But like I said, that next day I felt, oh my God, I felt terrible. I tried to move again, and I was like, oh, what the fuck? Like,
But it must have been, was it releasing trauma from your body? That would be my guess. It's
you know, and last night I was in a men's group meeting, and one of the things of many that the great aspects of Vets has versus a lot of these other places, if you were to go spend the money and do this medicine for healing, is Vets, once you go, you get put in the system, and they have all these integration meetings. I've met all these freaking great dudes that I would have never gotten to meet. I'm able to do like these meditation classes, like these heartfelt centered classes, and then help other guys, you know, and then watch some of these guys that are in this men's group, some of them, including myself, where I was just totally broken open. I was really, I was just totally broken open. I was in just such a soft and vulnerable and open, sensitive state. I was really confused and manic. It took me a long time, and like not everyone has this experience. Some people, like last night, this guy was on the meeting and he was very fresh out of medicine, and his share was such a great reveal to some of us that have been out for years, not done it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, there was a little part of me that was a little jealous. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy already, he's already got it all figured out. Like, Jesus. And in that sense, you know, what's great is with Vets in that community, you've got so many tools to figure out your integration. You've got coaches, you've got all these other assets, the soft network. There's other things where you can find coaches, which if you're listening to this and you don't have a coach or someone you're seeing, you should. I mean, you don't skip leg day, right?
Yeah, the integration piece is so important. I think we learned so much from the 1960s what not to do, right? Like back then it was all just recreational. You might have seen on my first episode, the guy was at a concert, at a music festival, doing a very high dose of LSD. If you're in that setting and something traumatic comes up, that can be a really bad situation. So you want to be in a safe setting. That's why we talk about set and setting, setting a clear intention, being in a safe setting. But I've seen people, I actually knew someone that did this work therapeutically and then skipped out on the integration. She thought she was healed. She just kind of moved on from it. And she was kind of riding the initial high of the healing and didn't do the work. And she ended up having a psychotic break from it because she didn't do the integration. So it's not the fault of the medicine, like, right? You really do, because like you said, it cracks you open. And the reason why everyone's having all these symptoms of PTSD or anxiety and all these ways that it manifests in your body is because the trauma is in there boiling, right? And it's just trying to come out. So it's going to come out in all these ways. It's going to project in all these ways. So you do have to get in there and tear it open. And I liken it to peeling an onion, doing this work. Like my medicine now is mostly mushrooms, and I do a little bit, like I do it a couple of times a year, and it's peeling more layers of healing each time. And each time I get something completely different from it, you know, and I'm not dealing with heavy, like big T trauma like you guys are in the military. Mine is more like emotional little T trauma, but still complex. So yeah, it's scary stuff. And I think especially what I loved about the documentary, you think about Navy SEALs, you guys are like the toughest of the tough, right? These are guys that don't want to be vulnerable.
Yeah, so that's, you know, it's great you said that, because, you know, after going through that and then being in the Vets community, everyone has been through that, and we've broken down those barriers in between each other. So there's no, you know, like there's a little but with, you know, Army, Navy, you know, Marine Corps, it's just a wash of all of us, and we're just people, you know? So, and like we've all got a crazy story, but at the end of the day, we're all just people, and we went through stuff, and we were trained to do it. We were told to do it. We did what we were told. We did a good fucking job at it, you know? And and then now we're trying to integrate back into society as normal people with skill sets that are not taught to do that. You know, it's like you find that out in business. But to go back before, I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but you know, you said you had to do like the onion peeling. In business, you're doing quarterly P&Ls. you know, and then when you're working out or you're training for an event, you have peak performance points before you're doing a race or a fight or whatever it is that you're doing, you know, like when I get really into yoga, I'll get really good, but then I can get to where a point I'll end up hurting myself. I have to take it back down. But same thing with some medicine, and hopefully we get to this point to where we can access it. But to be able to have programs for veterans and people that need help is just, you know, some kind of quarterly or, you know, some program to do the work, and then you're constantly
just
doing
a booster. You need a booster.
Yeah, because you're constantly doing the integration.
Right. And then other stuff is happening in life, right? Like we've got wars raging around the world right now. How is that not triggering every veteran that's been in combat, you know? I think, too, our society as a whole, the way we raise boys, and we're realizing this more and more, but like suck it up, just don't express your feelings, you know, just pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You boys are taught not to have your feelings. And I've experienced this just in the dating world. You know, my generation, I've dated plenty of men that just have no idea how to access their feelings. And I've always been someone who wears my heart on my sleeve. So it's hard for me to relate, but it's okay for me as a woman to do that, right? Like we're supposed to do that. We're expected to do that. And I think men, then you get into the military and it's even worse, right? Because now you're really supposed to be the toughest of the tough. And so like, forget about showing any emotion. So the fact that all of you guys are able to get to this point of vulnerability is just like hats off to you. Like seriously, I bow to you, because having been on a self-development path for 20 years now and dealing with men in my life, I know it is not easy and there's stigma and it truly takes a spiritual warrior.
On that, do you know what that looks like for people that are asking what that looks like? I think my easiest answer would be beautiful. You know, and it's hard.
Beautiful, what it looks like to break open.
Yeah. Like the easiest answer to that, because man, I'm going to a Joe Dispenza retreat in Austin in a week. And I think had I gone at a different time, I don't think it would have been as good for me, because now I'm a lot more vulnerable and open, and I think that this is a better point for me to enter that space in, you know, like
definitely.
And not everyone's time is their time to do things, but sometimes, like, you know, I was really desperate when they gave me Paxil. I would have taken anything at that point to feel better, you know, and then it made things so much worse. Oh my God. And then it was just like I never recovered from that. And it was just like this tumultuous hole, and, you know, the committee of assholes, just too much, you know, and I just couldn't sort it out or get back on top of it. And my poor wife had to watch this, and just like you'll see in Waves and War, hopefully everyone that's listening gets to watch that and, you know, push this message forward. It's very important for the veterans that are watching, and or just anyone that's looking for help, you know.
Anyone with trauma or depression. Yeah, I mean, how did it change your marriage?
Oh, I had already stopped drinking before I went to Mexico, and then I had some wine afterwards, and it just wasn't, you know, the same. And then I remember, I don't even know when it was, but I used to drink a lot of beer and a lot of alcohol, and now I don't know how I drink that much. I'm not a very big dude, you know? I don't know where I put it all, but I just didn't have the taste for beer anymore. And it's funny, is my store is right next door to a bar and a Vietnamese restaurant, and if a rep comes into town, they're trying to sell me stuff. They look around the store, and then I take them to the bar. And it's like, all right, you want to sell me some stuff? This is where the business is done. Now buy me a beer. That's how I would do business over there. It was great. And then even the owners of the place are like, you haven't been taking your buddies over here for beers lately, you know? So it was, in that sense, and a lot of other little things, like a lot more stillness, like being able to drive with the radio off and just having time to think and be and spend time. You know, it's really hard to slow down. We have the silicone obsessions all the time in our hands. No. It's really easily to get distracted. And, you know, I've been working on my meditation stuff a lot more, and the yoga really helped my meditation. Honestly, it was a long time of doing yoga, and I like hot yoga. A lot of time of doing yoga before I realized it wasn't just the yoga.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it's so great. We have a studio here in Virginia Beach and in Norfolk with the Yaks brothers and their sister Elizabeth that started it. And man, what a great program they have. And they've had some breathwork clinics. And, you know, going back to my Ambio visit with vets, is you do the Ibogaine, you do your grade A, and then what Trevor Millar that works and runs Ambio, he says is the polish. He's like, Ibogaine is the sandblasting, and then the 5-MeO is the polish, which 5-MeO is DMT, 5-MeO DMT from the Sonoran desert toad or the Colorado desert toad, and it comes from these glands, and you smoke it. So I think when we were in Mexico, we smoked the synthetic version, but oh my gosh, that totally broke me open. That was what just made me really, that was a confusing experience. I screamed and yelled, and it just broke all kinds of parts of, if you know what the IFS parts are, I think that every single little part of myself just was trying to release something. I was doing all kinds of weird movement. I was exhausted afterwards. You know, it was the weirdest thing. And that's why I was saying that with Mike Tyson doing these things and talking about them like they're cool, there's nothing fucking cool about doing that. That needs to be, that is serious. I mean, like,
I know. I think my family's been worried that, oh, Jeannie's getting addicted to mushrooms. And I want to say, you don't understand. You do not get addicted to this stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's incredibly intense, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes when you do it, you're like, I'm not touching that for a very long time, you know? If you're doing it therapeutically and as a sacred medicine, it can be really intense. I like that you mentioned yoga because I don't know if you know this about me, but I've been on the yoga path for 20 years. That's also, it's a huge part of my practice. And I've said this in my other episodes that with a psychedelic healing, it's so important to be grounded, and yoga is that grounding that just, so it gets me through the day, honestly. But I know also, I want to pull up about your business. So you wrote in Scars and Stripes, which is one of the military publications about cannabis reform. To talk to me about your passion for cannabis.
And wow, when I was 11 years old, my brother, oh man, I hope my mom never listens to this. My brother sold me, it was a cigarette, but it was a top roll, you know, and it was just tobacco. And I think that I thought, I don't remember, I think I was like 11. I think that I thought I was smoking weed and I was cool, you know? And then what's so funny is my brother, shortly after that, took a drastic turn and became just the perfect child. And I did not. So it was, I think, my junior year with the seniors. I had smoked some pot, and then just, you know, I went to a private school. A lot of kids were doing it, and it's so easy for you to be accepted into a group when there's alcohol or drugs related, you know, and I think that all of us, you know, I can't imagine being in school now with the social media and stuff, but all of us want to just be accepted and be a part of a group. I mean, look at SEAL Team, and then look at me, like the enthusiasm I had when I was talking about the group with vets. We're losing so much of our human touch and things, but with the cannabis, I obviously used that as recreation, and then got into the military, didn't mess with it. After I got out, I was in school, and a friend of mine that had ALS, which is amyotrophic sclerosis, or known better as Lou Gehrig's disease, a really good friend of mine, the SEAL, contracted Lou Gehrig's disease. And man, he was on so many meds, and he just looked, even though I know maybe some of you might have seen Tuesdays with Maury or read the book, or being around someone with multiple sclerosis or Lou Gehrig's disease, and they're still there completely mentally. Their body's shutting down. But also within that, He was on all these meds, and the glimmer in his eye was just not there. Like I'd seen it before, and I knew it was the meds. And then he asked me to get him weed, and I was bartending at night and working for the Navy in the day, so, you know, a lot of people at the bar. First dude I asked, I got some for him, and man, that just changed my thought on everything after I saw him change. And he got off of the barbiturates, even though he was dying. He was just eating cookies and smoking a little bit, and wow, he's a totally different person in light of the fact that he was fucking dying. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, and it just changed my view. And then, like, being around him, a lot of other veterans and guys that I knew from the SEAL teams would go out to visit him, and we'd go out to the barn and get high. And this was illegal at the time. And meanwhile, like, all these guys are trying it because they just wanted to calm down and relax, because it's just like this unpositive toxicity that we just keep cortisol shotting ourselves up and staying at this level of high alert and this. And guys are trying to come down. The alcohol just puts them in a bad place, but we're prone to it because that's how we cope. I mean, with Mike, when he shot himself, when we lost all those guys in Waves and War, Maddie was supposed to be on this helicopter that got shot down, and we lost all those fucking guys at once, man. And we all knew each other. We all knew those guys. And it was so personal. And, like, what do we do to celebrate their life? We all go out and just spend time together drinking. And no one really ever talked. You know, we tell stories and stuff, but it was very impersonal. But we were warriors, and that's what we did. And so now it's like, it's not feasible. Alcohol is so bad. It's a solvent. It's so bad for you. It ages you. It does everything terrible for you, which is so funny that with the cannabis stuff is like now with this hemp bill that's redacting a lot of stuff from the 2018 Farm Bill, but still, you never see anything that happens on marijuana that you see on alcohol. But here we are with this Farm Bill being funded by Mitch McConnell and his money from his bourbon buddies in Kentucky. Like, I like bourbon, but I don't like it that much to mess with my business.
Yeah. Well, let me pull up your business here. The Grow Depot, how many years ago did you start this?
So 2021, former governor put this into play in Virginia, where we could have 4 plants per household, and you could have an ounce on you, and just really, it's very similar to how it rolled out in Arizona, except Arizona had 6 plants, medicinal only. It's all held by freaking MSOs. So, for instance, to just break it down even further, the dispensary in Virginia Beach, there's 5 licenses in the whole state of Virginia. They're all held by these big money places with these big backing. There's all vertical, you know, no little guy. They're changing all these laws. It pushes brick and mortar. It's not favorable for farmers. It's all people that have money. It's so rigged, you know. And in Virginia,
It's for the oligarchs.
yeah, Altria and Philip Morris. And what that means is Marlboro, Virginia tobacco. Like, they want in too. So, you know, like, where the dispensary down the street, that's a medical dispensary, you have to have a medical card, is licensed and zoned as a pharmacy. They pay absolutely no taxes or anything to the state or our city. So they're just rolling in it. And, you know, there's so many people on the top end that are getting wealthy. And then us, where I just have my store where I saw this opportunity, and I'm picks and shovels. I don't even sell seeds.
Right.
I just got a license to get other plants in there, and we just started carrying succulents and diversifying. But I run my store pretty much kind of like a Best Buy. All my people grow something. I have this girl horticulturalist, so people come in for any kind of plant problems. We should be able to help them. And or if people come in and they want to grow cannabis, we can help them get started from scratch. It is
that's fantastic.
Weed, but it is also a plant, and it can be hard for people to grow. And within cannabis, man, it's an amazing plant. There's all kinds of cannabinoids. And we have an endocannabinoid system that it works with. And if you've ever tried like a sitting or some kind of meditation or some kind of personal work in the right space and set it up with cannabis, it can be done. Just the same as like Hape or anything else, just to kind of break down a little bit of barriers and get you in there. And for veterans, the CBG and CBD, which like a lot of people are all in rave about the high THC, but it's not about just the high THC, especially if you're going for the medicinal values of the plant.
Yeah, I use it for meditation, so I definitely use it as a spiritual practice. It's interesting because I'm in Washington, in Seattle. We've had it, we were the first with Colorado to legalize it, so it's been so long here. When I was researching this last night, I'm like, all right, what's the deal with Virginia? I didn't know any of that about you can have up to 4 plants. Here, we literally have a pot shop. It's like as many Starbucks. There's pot shops in every neighborhood
like Denver,
here, and
like
it's just
Denver,
normal.
yeah.
You go in and you'll see a grandmother getting it for her, whatever, like all kinds of people. It's the friendliest place.
Yeah, accessible. What you're seeing it once they open these dispensaries is the alcohol-related incidents go down, alcohol consumption goes down. Right. The actual cannabis use on teens and younger people go down when it's accessible more, which is fucking weird. Right. I don't know what that makes sense.
Well, that's like prohibition with alcohol, right? Yeah. If you prohibit something, then people want it more. Yeah. I mean, didn't we learn that lesson?
Yeah. Yeah, but a weird thing, and like if everyone could get on some similarity of a page, but right now everything's so diversified, and it's what's crazy within this diversification is it causes people to use more alcohol and more drugs and more pharmaceuticals. So it's almost in a seemingly sense that we're being put in this situation to stay sick or stay big pharma. Yeah, stay dependent on other people and just keep this commercial aspect going with no little care for the little guys, And
I know.
Like as a male, I think not just in what you said about bootstrapping as a child and stuff, and as a male, I don't know if it has to do with my military or anything, but it's really fucking hard for me to ask for help. Like, and I just can't imagine. My friend Mike, God bless him, he was so fucking stubborn. And I have all these other friends that are amazing dudes. They're just so fucking stubborn, man. I'm fucking stubborn.
It's pride. It is. It's male pride.
Yeah. To be a peer support advocate or ambassador for vets, you have to do all these checklists and all these things, and it's great. But within that, we were using the Columbia Protocol, and I was going through that one day, and I'm just sitting in the Zoom call, and we're going over the questions, and I'm just sitting here listening, and I'm like, oh, shit. I'm orange, almost red. Again, like, what the fuck happened? It's very easy to get sucked back in and spiral in, especially with all the stuff going on. Right now, it's the holidays. Yeah. Like, people are really feeling the pinch after the government shutdown. Not just the military, but everyone. There's a gigantic engine that runs this government behind a government shutdown. And for them to be without pay, going into the holidays, when we're already, like, everything's so expensive and everything's so hard right now. It's like, really, when me as a shop owner, I see it, it's coming down to me at the retail store where I'm just not, I have all these employees, I got this big-ass store, it's stressful, man. Like, it's so much easier to work for someone else, Yeah,
there are pros and cons for sure, but I definitely am all for using holistic medicinal purposes to deal with our stress. I've been on a path of meditation and yoga for 20 years, but that came from a background of anxiety and depression that runs in my family. And my family is on the pharmaceutical track with it. And I've been there, I've done that. And I realized over years that all it was doing was treating the symptoms of. I'm glad that you mentioned that book, The Body Keeps Score, earlier, because that book comes up a lot. And I know it was a bestseller, so there are people that are aware of it, but I want to get it out there more because we don't realize in the West that we carry trauma in the body. I think in the East, like the yogis knew this, And in Asia, Chinese medicine understands this with acupuncture, and indigenous medicine understands this. In the West, we think we're the most advanced, the most modern science. And in many ways, sometimes yes, but in other ways, we're more primitive. We have so much to learn from indigenous cultures. Like in this case, say it again, the Wheaties.
Yeah, and I mean, they all believed in, like earlier when we were talking about the suicide and the ripple effect. Well, in the ripple effect within water, there's vibration and, frequency. We're all mostly of water and frequency. So even the indigenous people, they play these music, they play these tones, and they do the Bwiti music, and that's all in that tone sequence. And it might seem like it's random, but it's all done for a purpose. Before Jeannie and I got started, I played my root chakra bowl just because I had a little bit of a tough day at work and I was a little anxious. It's my first podcast being so open about psychedelic work, which I hope really helps some veterans. But I was anxious, and just to kind of drop in, and that, just lowers us into that. And we do sound healing at my store every other Wednesday. And actually, my wife got me into the sound healing stuff, and she basically dragged me into these sound healings. And now I'm helping the guy.
I had to do that with my ex. He didn't get it.
Yeah, now I'm helping the guy. He trained me in Reiki. It's so funny. It's like I'm just taking a total twist, but there's a lot to it. I've learned a lot from it. And man, I've always liked music. So there's all kinds of cool instruments that come along with playing those sound healing things and doing that, and just getting out and doing anything. So I started doing yoga because my injuries, and I just couldn't do things because I can't run, I can't do that, but I want to get my heart rate up. So it's like hot yoga, then I'm moving and I'm working some of this myofascia, and at least a little bit. And I'm going into this studio in Virginia Beach, and there's a bunch of old busted ass fucking Navy SEALs and like these 80-year-old women that are doing all this crazy stuff, and I can't even, like, I gotta.
That's gonna be me. That's my plan.
I gotta use a block or 2 blocks sometimes, but what? Once you start getting older, and it's more about just being able to keep movement than it is about getting all this big muscles and looking awesome. I'd rather be able to keep moving and not feel like a freight train hit me every day than that.
Yeah. I didn't expect us to be talking about yoga today, but I love when I see men come into yoga. So many men are like, oh, this is for sissies. I feel like my family feels that way. I've tried to get my brothers to do yoga. And then I watch like a big, strong guy like you just get his ass whooped.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
On the yoga mat.
Oh, man.
People think it's just exercise, but it's not, right? Exercise is like the happy side effect of it, but it's a mind-body practice.
Oh, yeah.
The whole point of the physical yoga practice is to center the channel for meditation. So I've been doing it for 20 years now, and it changed my life. I love that you're a Navy SEAL turned yogi. You're a total yogi.
Yeah. I mean,
fantastic.
You know what? You think you're tough? Bring your ass to a hot flow class at a hot yoga class.
Yeah.
And
absolutely
do every single pose, the whole thing, and make it through that, and then see how you feel. Pass out. To start wrapping it up, something that I felt like saying is where I'm at with my store, and now I'm doing these podcasts, and I'm very accessible at my store. So a lot of people will come in and, they're looking for something that I don't sell. They're looking for hope. Yep. They're looking for something. They might be thinking about growing, but there's veterans that'll do diligence and look at my website, and they'll find these articles that I write. I totally forgot I wrote that article. I mean, I just went up to D.C. last week and met a ton of people in contacts. It's so hard to keep up with all the stuff that's going on right now, and to find the right source. But anyhow, and speaking of that, is finding the right source and doing the right thing is, I have these guys will come in, and then, they hear about psychedelics, and they'll source their own from whomever, not for me, but they're coming to me for advice, and they're like, I'm going to do a heroic dose this weekend. And I'm like, oh, shit, really? And then the way that I react to it, then it really makes them question it. And I'm like, yeah, I don't fuck around or anything like that. I go all the way to Jamaica in a controlled setting, in an environment that I feel safe, Or
It's one thing if you're,
like to do the two, oh, well, my buddy's coming in and both of us are going to do it. It's like, all right, jackasses.
yeah, you got to be experienced with the medicine if you're going to make that choice. Like I do it solo, but I've been doing it for years now, and I do moderate doses. But yeah, my first time doing it, I was in a safe setting with a doctor and a nurse and a psychiatrist. So I made sure I was being monitored because, like you said, they check your blood. They got to check all that stuff, right, to make sure you're not interacting.
Yeah, no,
So, yeah.
and it's like, man, if you're going to do that, like, be smart about it.
What's your final message to veterans that are needing help?
Man, it's just, it's hard to find your tribe, when we get out. So there's an author named Sebastian Junger. He wrote a war book, and he also wrote a book named Tribe. And especially in times of despair and things, like I said, we're coming up on the holidays. People have not been getting paid. There's people that are dealing with marriage and issues with their children and so much different. People are dealing with so many different things right now. And then we're in this super divisive status right now as this country. It's so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we've had all these opportunities, and then, it's just like, just slow down. Let's slow down the train a little bit and find some help for each other. I know that there's VFWs and some other stuff. Sometimes just being around other veterans, you don't have to tell them everything that's going on, but if you're in the red and you're about to commit suicide, don't do that. You have a lot of people that care about you, and you're important. You made it through this freaking podcast all the way. I think you can make it through the rest of the life. Jesus, you had to listen to me for an hour, So, let's stick around and work this thing out, and we can help others in this venture. Keep up with your local policy and regulation within your state. Write to your senators and let them know if you've had experiences like me and you have these amazing opportunities to talk to Jenny and, spread your word. It's important. More important than you and or your ego and in that box. So, and it's really tough to fucking swallow that sometimes. And, I appreciate you giving me this opportunity, and I hope that it finds people in good health. There's so many resources with Heroic Hearts, the Soft Network, vets. There's a lot of places doing stuff. There's non-medicine retreats. There's a lot of stuff out there. I wish it was more easily accessible for people to find, but like I said, just sometimes being with other people, because when they come together, they might think that they're having this toughest time, but you could be having a way worse time than me and looking like you got it all together.
Right. Absolutely. Especially with social media. Everyone looks like they've got it all together.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap it there. I'm really glad this message is getting out there, and I hope veterans find it. And if anyone wants to talk with you, I imagine you're open to people contacting you for advice about how to do this work.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the best way of doing that is. I guess it would be LinkedIn.
Okay.
And yeah, it would be LinkedIn. Or if you really want, you can call my store and leave a message, and my people can give me the message, and that's at Grow Depot in Virginia Beach, Virginia, on Virginia Beach Boulevard, the place to go when you need stuff to grow, Grow Depot.
Right. Thank you, Adam. This has been an absolute pleasure. I'm really happy I got to chat with you. I hope you and your family have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I'll
Happy
chat with you soon.
holidays. Looking forward to catching up again soon. Thanks.